welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. We like to take your suggestions, and you sent in some pretty interesting stuff about Solana.
Yeah, I was reading through it all too, and I gotta say, some of those predictions had me, well, let's just say they had me raising an eyebrow or two.
Especially, I think, this one piece talking about a potential price drop, like way down, potentially even below $170. I mean, yikes.
Yeah, that's quite a statement. It definitely caught my attention. And I know a lot of our listeners are probably wondering, like, what in the world could cause Solana to take such a big hit?
Exactly. So that's what we're going to try and unpack today. Dig into the factors, the news, anything that might be, pushing Solana towards this predicted doom and gloom.
Right. Doom and gloom may be pushing it a bit, but I mean, there's definitely some stuff happening in the crypto world, and specifically some stuff happening with Solana that could be playing a role here.
Okay, so let's get into it. When you were looking at this, what were some of the first things that jumped out at you? Like, what's connecting all these dots?
Well, one of the things that really got me thinking was this whole thing with the European Union's MiCA
The
regulation.
MiCA regulation, right? That's been making headlines. But isn't that mostly aimed at stablecoins?
Yeah, that's right. It's primarily focused on stablecoins, which are, cryptocurrencies designed to be pegged to the value of something like, say, the US dollar. It's supposed to make them less volatile.
Right, less of those wild swings we often see in crypto. So how does that tie into Solana then? I mean, Solana's not a stablecoin.
Exactly. And that's where things get a little tricky. You see, the language in MiCA, well, it's pretty broad. Some people are worried that it might end up having unintended consequences, like a spillover effect, impacting other areas of the crypto market.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. And Solana being a platform for lots of DeFi, decentralized finance activities.
Could potentially get caught in the crossfire. Basically, whenever you have a big new regulation coming down the pike, it creates a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty in the crypto market, well, let's just say investors don't tend to like that very much.
Makes sense. Uncertainty can make people nervous. They might start to hesitate, hold back on investing, maybe even sell off their holdings to play it safe.
Exactly. And that kind of behavior, that's what can really drift prices down. It's like a domino effect. One person sells, then another, and suddenly you've got a full-blown sell-off happening.
Okay, so we've got these regulatory concerns potentially spooking investors. But what about this specific price target? $170. Why that number?
Well, if you look at Solana's price history, it's an important level. It's what they call a support level. You see, when a cryptocurrency drops to a certain price, if enough buyers step in, it can stop the decline and even push the price back up.
Kind of like a floor then, a point where people are like, okay, this is a good deal, I'm buying in.
Exactly. But if that support level breaks, if the selling pressure is too strong, well, then the price can keep falling. And in this case, some analysts are pointing to $170 as that potential breaking point.
Interesting. So this prediction, it's not just like pulled out of thin air. There's some reasoning behind it, some logic tied to historical price movements and these looming regulatory changes.
Right. It's definitely not just a random guess. But remember, we're talking about crypto here. And crypto is, well, let's be honest, it's notorious for its volatility.
Yeah, those wild price swings are kind of part of the game. Which brings us to another piece of this puzzle, market sentiment. I mean, fear and excitement can really drive the market, can't they?
Absolutely. Crypto is driven as much by psychology as it is by fundamentals. If people are feeling bullish, optimistic, then prices tend to go up. But if fear starts to creep in, well, it can spread like wildfire.
And that's what we might be seeing here. This prediction of a price drop, coupled with the regulatory concerns, it could all be adding to a sense of unease, making people less willing to hold on to their Solana.
Exactly. It creates a kind of feedback loop. The prediction feeds the fear feeds the selling pushes the price down, and it just spirals.
Wow, okay, this is all starting to make a lot of sense, but let's back up for a second and look at the bigger picture. If Solana were to drop below $170, how big of a deal would that really be?
Well, it would definitely be significant. I mean, Solana's been on quite a ride over the past couple of years. Back in November 2021, it hit an all-time high of, get this, around $260.
Wow, $260. From there to potentially below $170? That's a pretty steep drop.
It is. And remember, while it's seen some dips since that all-time high, it hasn't dropped this low before. So yeah, it would be a big deal, a major correction.
Okay, that really puts things in perspective, and I think it highlights a really important point that we always need to keep in mind with crypto. It's risky, like really risky.
Absolutely. There's the potential for big rewards, but also the potential for big losses. And I think this whole situation with Solana is a perfect example of that.
It definitely is. So for our listeners out there who might be, holding some Solana, watching this all unfold, what would you say to them?
I'd say the most important thing is to do your own research. Don't just blindly follow the hype or the fear. Look at the facts, understand the risks, and then make informed decisions.
Great advice. And, with everything we've just discussed, I'm curious, what would you do next if you were trying to decide what to do with your Solana?
Well, first, I'd dig deeper into this whole Mika regulation thing, really try to understand how it could impact Solana. I'd also be looking at other factors that might be influencing the price, like any new technological developments or even just overall market trends.
That's a great point. There's always more to the story, always more to learn and understand. And that's what makes this whole crypto world so fascinating, right?
Absolutely. It's constantly evolving, and that's why it's so important to stay informed, stay curious, and never stop learning.
Couldn't agree more. Well, on that note, I want to thank you for joining us for another deep dive. It's been a pleasure unpacking this complex, potentially volatile situation with Solana.
My pleasure. And hey, to our listeners, thanks for sending in your suggestions. Keep them coming. We love to hear what's on your mind.
And who knows, maybe your question will be the next topic we tackle in our deep dive. Until then, stay informed and stay safe out there in the wild world of crypto.